Okay, I thought I'd give you a new view, even though really right over there, it's the same view. It's the same place. I know it's not exciting to watch, and I'm not making a video for you to really see anything. I'm just making videos to post the links to some of the things that I have been interviewing about and discussing. So this video kind of runs the gamut on a lot of different things. It has to do with secret identities, like I've spoken before. And we also talk about VOP, Veterans on Patrol, and the incidents that are happening in Arizona, and my opinion on that, regarding the naysayers and, different aspects of that story. So that's part of it. And then we go into Aleister Crowley. Now, Aleister Crowley was a MI5 agent, British intelligence. He was also known, self-proclaimed to be the Beast, using the number 666. And so he was around early, before World War II even. He was into it's called black sex magic, and magic is MAJICK. And he wrote what is called the Book of the Law. And he states he was in an Egyptian pyramid and was inspired to write this. And so the Book of the Law is kind of the background saying of it, and of Aleister Crowley is, do what thou willst. And basically, there's a lot of talk about how becoming the most evil you can be and doing the most evil acts somehow brings to some higher calling, or higher, I'd say some higher spiritual perspective, although I would say it's the very wrong spiritual perspective. So there, his book, there's a lot of really horrible things in the stories about him, involved in pedophilia and, I'm struggling to mention some of the things he was involved in because it's really hard to talk about, but bestiality and orgies and stuff like that. And I get into who Aleister Crowley is, how he came to the United States, at what time, his meeting up with L.Ron Hubbard, who founded Scientology, Jack Parsons, who basically is the father of NASA, invented rocket propulsion, or rocket energy, whatever you want to call it. He was a magnificent guy, very intelligent. But I go into this ceremonies that they had, and how L.Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons and kind of Aleister Crowley split ways. Of course, L.Ron Hubbard would go on to create Scientology, and I go into what's kind of behind. I'm not going to profess to be an expert on Scientology, but I do know the origins of it, and I do know who L.Ron Hubbard was and who he was working for, and what their plans were, and also his involvement in some CIA activities later on. So I go into the kind of the blackmail process of Scientology. People can disagree or not, but a lot of it's about confession, and then they tape you, and then so it's, the scheme is very similar to some of the things that are happening with the CIA. But I basically explain how those characters came together in a series of rituals that they performed here in the United States. Aleister Crowley was very into obviously Satanism, and what he did do was he incorporated and believed in, just like Freud and some of the others with MK Ultra, was the story of Osiris and Isis and Horus, their son. It's Egyptian mythology. You can look it up. But one of the key things to make a connection to current day events is, if you recall that picture of John Podesta holding up the palms of his hands, and on one hand is the number 14, and on the other hand is a kind of a drawing of a fish. That is the occult. That is the representation of Osiris and Isis. And Aleister Crowley, upon writing the Book of the Law, formed a religion called Thelma, Thelma, based on the the same saying, do what thou willst, which is, to do all things evil to somehow become pure, I guess is the mentality. But I go into that and how now, even currently, and in the last administration, the leader of the free world was wearing a T-shirt with Aleister Crowley on it, who was literally kicked out of Italy by Mussolini, who murdered millions because he was so evil. And now it's being, he is somehow honored in Hollywood. And if you look through the Hillary Clinton emails, John Podesta emails, you will often see a reference to Thelma, Thelma, or I don't know if they call it Thelmanite religion, but it's the Thelma religion. And that was formed by Aleister Crowley, a professed Satanist who called himself the Beast with the number 666. Now, I'm not saying he was the Antichrist or anything, but this is what he called himself. He was into all things evil. And in the Clinton emails and Podesta emails, you will see Thelma, and you will see, as many people have seen, odd references to, sacrificing a chicken to Moloch and different things like this. And this ties into spirit cooking with Marina Abramovich, as a lot of people have heard. And it was in the John Podesta and Hillary Clinton emails as well. So the spirit cooking recipe, I believe, is in the Book of the Law by Aleister Crowley, and it's something that they did practice. It was also practiced, it was part of the rituals with L.Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons and Marjorie, who was one of the girlfriends, and numerous other people that were involved in these rituals and this, what became the, I think it's Order Templus. It's the OTO, basically. The OTO was founded by Aleister Crowley, and its headquarters was in the United States of America, and L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons were a part of that and a part of running those headquarters. And a lot of really nasty things happened there. So you can look some of that up yourself. But I think it's important to realize that as Hollywood glamorizes this guy, and as you read in the emails between Podesta and Clinton and their various partners or email friends, you will often see Thelma and hints about Cyrus and Isis and Horus. And you can read, I encourage everyone, research that story, what that means. What does the 14 mean? So this involves things, once again, it involves child sex trafficking, it involves cannibalism, it involves spirit cooking, it involves really horrible things. And that's what's being kind of magnified in Hollywood today, and even magnified in the last administration on a T-shirt, which is when a man is known as being the evilest man ever known, and then you wear his T-shirt as a leader of the free world, and it's in the emails that some of our leaders are following a religion that Aleister Crowley, a professed Satanist, created. I think you have to dig a little deeper. So I did some of that in this interview, and I want to encourage everyone to look into this stuff. We are talking about the occult. We're talking about what's called the dark occult. Nazi Germany, or the Nazis, as everyone knows, the swastika. The swastika is actually a outward sign, or they call it iconography or outward symbolism, of something called the black sun worship. And this all ties in together to Egyptian mythology. So it's hard to believe, it's very confusing, so I'm trying to keep it as simple as I can, but it's very complex. So if you go to places like Denver International Airport, that was the ground was laid, or the stone was laid there in 1994 to mark it by President Bill Clinton, and on there it talks about the New World Order, and it also talks about, it shows the Freemasonry insignias on top of it. Also around Denver International Airport are very disturbing murals, as well as in the Bank of America building. And the black sun, which is what they worship, basically, is actually on the ground in the DIA, Denver International Airport. It's kind of a, planted within the surface of one of the airport terminals, I believe. And it's something most people would have no idea what it means, but these guys know what it means. And if you remember QAnon, he says their symbols will be their downfalls. That's exactly what it is. So if you understand the symbols, if you understand the code language, if you understand the occult and their own belief system, that when they're going to do a ritual or, something evil, that they must announce it first, and that somehow gives them, I don't know, want to call it good karma or protection for after the event happens. That's why a lot of times we see this kind of predictive programming happening in different television shows, movies, things like that. That's part of the whole psychological warfare games that they play. So I get into some of that, and you can do the research yourself for other things that you might want to know, or ask questions in the comment section. I will answer them to the best of my ability. But I think it's a very key, important part of this story between British intel, Aleister Crowley, Freud, Hitler, L.Ron Hubbard, Jack Parsons, some other members of the United States government, the infiltration from the CIA into the United States, and the secret identities that were formed afterwards, and some still maintained. So I hope you listen and give me some feedback and research for yourself.